Hey guys, Zen here, and Rainbow Six Siege is an incredible tactical experience, and it'll go down as one of the best multiplayer shooters of this generation. But it'd be a far stretch to say that the game is a perfect product or is without flaws. Honestly, it's kind of what makes it so special. And so today, I wanted to get into 5 problems that plague Rainbow Six Siege, and to some of these, hopefully we can offer up some solutions. So remember to subscribe to my channel, and let's get into this. Now, I suppose this video includes a bonus, because if you're tired of losing ELO to those invasive DDoSers in the lobby, then I recommend you check out the sponsor for this video, ExpressVPN, with their protective VPN tunnel. When you boot up your game without using a VPN, it allows for just about anyone to access your IP address and send through a DDoS just as you're about to win the round. We've all been here. With ExpressVPN, they first send your data through a tunnel where it's even harder to break in, but they also mask your IP address so the DDoSers can't find where you live. And if you want to choose what servers you're connecting to, you can even see a reduced ping and more stability. Of course, one of the best features of using a VPN is the ability to unblock content restrictions like on Netflix. Just by changing your region, you'll be able to access an entirely different catalog of shows and movies for you to enjoy with a quick setup of ExpressVPN. So guys, at the top of the description, if you click the link, you'll get an extra 3 months for free with a 12-month subscription when you head over to expressvpn.com/zen and sign up for the limited time offer. ExpressVPN is faster than the competition, their servers are private and secure, and they also offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so you can enjoy it without the worry. And so guys, check the link down below to learn more, and thanks to ExpressVPN for supporting our video. Alright, now to begin with number 1, and that are the scopes of Rainbow Six Siege. Never in any video game I've ever played have the sights and scopes been such a point of contention, and although there are some valuable reasons for this, there have always been some issues. Rainbow Six Siege now uses scopes as another metric of balance, and which operators receive them or not is usually based on how powerful they are, but it wasn't always like this. Back in year 1, both Jager and Bandit were ACOG demons that were able to get away with some incredible spawn peaks while also running away with the highest speed stat available, and it became clear that it was a problem that needed to be adjusted. The devs then made a rule that only 3 armor operators on defense would have access to the ACOG and went in and removed them from everyone else, and it made a world of difference to the meta. The real problem now though is that there is no rule, and instead the balance only really comes from how strong any one particular operator is, or on top of that, how that operator may be affecting the Pro League. Now, it's no secret that the Pro League heavily influences the entire meta and makes big changes to the game overall, like with the addition of pick and ban, and also the fact that bomb is now the only mode playable in ranked. It was made this way to mirror the league. And so with an operator like Maestro, for instance, he proved to be too strong in the Pro League with the ACOG on his Alda, and so the devs simply took it away, even though he is a 3 armor operator. So I realize that some may have seen this as a reasonable nerf to him, but now that there are a bunch of new scopes in the game, including the 1.5x, that kind of blends both long and medium range, I'm hoping an operator like Maestro, who's definitely seen a reduction in popularity, gets a look over and potentially receives a better option. It just feels like if an operator is strong, or maybe a little too strong, the answer is always to just take away the ACOG, and for some of these operators, that just doesn't work. And there's no better example than with Jager. Long after the removal of the ACOG on the 416, Jager was still topping the charts, and even landing off of the charts as far as win rates and pick rate, and there are so many other elements to why that's the case, and I get that spawn peaking was a focus, but it also had a lot to do with popularity, which never really changed. For every single season since launch, Ash proved to be the #1 attacker in Rainbow Six Siege, and the way to directly combat that was to remove the ACOG from our R4C. Even though I do agree that the R4C probably shouldn't have one, that was the route that they took, and Ash still remained the top attacker and was only ever dethroned once. It feels like this will be an ongoing war between the devs, the players, and the Pro League over which operators get which sites, and it's an incredibly delicate balance that I think will make a big impact through to that 100 operator goal, if we ever get there, that is. Moving on to number 2, which is something that every game needs to be successful, and that's getting new players in on the fun. So I honestly believe that Rainbow Six Siege is the hardest mainstream shooter to get a brand new player into, and a lot of that comes from personal experience. It's not the kind of game that someone can just look over your shoulder and get instantly impressed by. Rainbow Six Siege needs to be experienced to truly understand the appeal, and getting people into the experience isn't an easy task. Now, this game is an absolute mountain, like full-on Fiji of content. Every operator, each and every one of the gadgets, the maps, drone holes, and just the raw mechanics of the game have to be understood before you start really having any success as a player. And the truth is that a lot of new players simply don't make it that far because it's also incredibly challenging, and you're either for that challenge and want to stick it out and learn, or you're not. Now, Ubisoft are clearly aware of this problem, and that's why we have things like the newcomer playlist, which is more of a tool to help ease a new player into Siege, but it isn't the full answer. The only other way someone can learn exactly what to do is by the situations, but just being honest, those are very outdated and don't really account for the meta today, and so getting someone brand new to stick around, I think, is still an uphill battle. Now, there are two things that I think are inevitable as a result. Firstly, I think Siege is at some point going to be free to play. I've heard backlash about this, and I realize that smurfs and cheaters could become a growing issue, but to be real about it, if you're Ubisoft, the scale is 1,000 to 1. For every 1,000 new players you introduce to the game and get them buying customization items and battle pass stuff and whatnot, you have one new smurf or cheater, and so to them, there's risk, but also value there. The game will never be fully priced again, and the growth definitely hasn't stopped, but it has slowed down in recent years, and so to counteract it and get things moving quickly again, going free to play with Siege is really the last step. The other thing is more obvious, and I think it comes down to the devs building out a better training ground suite and giving better examples of what each and every operator do. Right now, if you enter the training grounds, you learn next to nothing about Mozzie or Jackal, and so at some point, it'll help a lot to get a better understanding of them early on. As it stands today, if you're a brand new player to Rainbow Six Siege, the best possible outcome is that you have a friend that's willing to hold your hand and teach you just about everything to get you started, or you spend hours outside of the game to try to learn as much as possible. I think a lot of us have been that friend, and it can be an incredibly rewarding outcome, but not everyone has that perk, and I could imagine the difficulty in flying completely solo. Next up at number 3 happens after you've learned the meta and are accustomed to the game, and that's banning the same ops during pick and ban. So if the question is, who are the top banned operators on attack and defense, what's your answer? For a lot of us, it's pretty clear which names come to mind. Mira, Thatcher, Jackal, and Montang, just to name a few, and some names you probably never hear are Mute, Fuse, and Tachanka. Ever since the introduction of Pick and Ban and Operation Phantom Sight, the operators who are excluded from the match have been roughly the same, and where it started as a tactical decision to help make the game more interesting, it's become a tool to ease player frustration more than anything. And so these systems are definitely a benefit to the experience, but they can also be very limiting and somewhat repetitive, which has continued to plague why they were added in the first place. Number 4 is less of a problem and more controversial than anything, but runouts and spawn peaks. I feel like ever since I started Rainbow Six Siege back in year 1, this has been a point of argument between the two parties. If you guys didn't know, the 2-second timer that pops up when defenders go outside was actually much longer at first and gave them even more time before they'd be spotted for being out there. Now, the reality is that if it isn't a part of the game, then it means that the defenders are only ever allowed inside of the map, which makes it so that the attackers have complete reign over all of the outside parts, and that would change the balance of a few key operators. For instance, Valkyrie wouldn't be nearly as powerful because throwing a cam outside and using it to open up an opportunity to jump out and surprise an unsuspecting attacker just wouldn't be possible, and there are of course angles that can't be reached just by peeking. Now, personally, I don't think it's balanced to give the attackers an always safe zone where the defenders really never have one. Runouts and spawn peeking make it so that you always have to be alert, and once the prep phase ends, you have to be paying close attention to those early tactics, which for me is a part of being a smart player. And then last up at number 5, we have the wonderful and masterful art of solo queuing. The problem with solo queuing is that it's a necessary beast on one hand, but on the other hand, it forces a certain playstyle that puts a lot of pressure to play every role and kind of juggle every ball on the solo player. Now, don't get me wrong, I owe a lot of my Siege knowledge to solo queuing, and it also builds up your game sense in a way that playing in a 5-stack simply never will. But I feel as though if you are solo queuing, there are just too many elements that can prevent you from getting a W, and sometimes it really isn't even the skill of your teammates. One of the other 4 could be disconnected and not make it back in time to finish up the match. There's the situation of being that 5th wheel to a team of 4 that may not acknowledge your presence, and each one of them could be in a Discord and not get any of your feedback. In the worst of cases, you could be on a team of a cheater and lose MMR even after a win, but on top of that, be reported by every other player in the match simply because you had the luck of the draw and ended up with a bad apple. The devs have admitted that the game is designed from the ground up to be played in a team of 5, where everyone is making callouts and playing off of one another. Solo queuing is really the exact opposite of that, and so there have been some who've requested a solos only playlist where everyone is solo in the match, but I don't think the devs will ever really consider it, again because of how Siege is meant to be played. I saved it for last because it's honestly just the nature of the beast at this point, and my belief is that it's a necessary way to familiarize yourself with every role in Rainbow Six Siege, and also builds up your personal confidence, which is invaluable. Now, one One solution I've heard is to introduce a personal performance metric that would kind of lessen the blow for a solo player who just didn't land on a good squad, but the devs have ultimately shut that down. So solo queuing is still enjoy at your own risk, and hopefully you don't have a problem with that. And so guys, that's gonna bring us to the end of the video. Just a reminder that Rainbow Six Siege is an incredible game, but not a perfect one. And so this list of 5 really highlights some of the long-standing shortcomings that I think could be improved. If you guys did enjoy the video, please drop a like and subscribe with those notifications if you're new. So guys, thank you for watching. I'm out.